Right, you're not. Now, I need to make it really clear with this video, the intention of the video and why I'm doing it, because I think that people are going to get the wrong idea or wrong perception, even before they've even watched it, based off what the content of the video is. Now, I've not talked about Garza on this channel. Well, apart from that time that weird Trump AI thing happened, but that was just absurd. I think we all agreed how insensitive and insane that whole thing was. But the reason I haven't talked about it is because I know how emotive and how touching of an issue it is, and how close so many people hold it to them because they're directly affected or what it means to them. And I don't want to offend people with this sort of video, sort of thing. I don't want to talk about something so, divisive and so opinionated of a topic, because so many people have a view on this, and either most people can be very radical as well with what side they take on, and I don't want to do that. For this video, I want to try and be as moderate, as objective, but also play a bit of devil's advocate in it as possible to sort of give the best perception, you know what I mean? So, this week we saw the last ever Match of the Day done by Gary Lineker as host. Now, if you don't know what Match of the Day is, or why it's a big deal, basically Match of the Day is a football show, probably the most iconic football show, which premieres on a Saturday every week, after all the matches, where Gary, the host, and a team of pundits will watch through highlights or extended highlights of games and then give commentary and break down the games. It's a show that people love and people used to watch. It's been declining, but it's still quite popular. And Gary, as a host, did this for 25 years. He was a massive face of it. He was the show, and, the three people that they got to replace him, they're doing three different hosts because they know how iconic he was and how difficult he is to replace. He was a legend on the pitch and as a pundit, and I think that cannot be disagreed with, no matter how you feel about him or his opinions or whatever. He deserves utmost respect for what he's done for the game of football, which you can't deny. Now, Gary has had backlash, a lot talked of him, because of his quite vocalness on some of the opinions. Now, a lot of people feel that celebrities or people in certain careers should only talk about their career, that Gary is employed as a football pundit. You should only ever see him talk about football. He knows nothing about anything else. He should only talk about that. And I kind of disagree with that assessment. I think that when people have such big platforms and they have opinions, and as long as those opinions don't lead to hate, things that you should keep to yourself, I think you should be able to speak out. You shouldn't force your opinions onto people, obviously, but you should have a right to speak out stuff that you believe in and things that are happening right now in the world. And Gary's been quite vocal about Gaza and has been quite against what Netanyahu and Israel are doing, and has shown a lot of sympathy with a lot of the innocent Palestinians, and especially children who are tragically, of course, been killed and all that sort of stuff. And a lot has happened. Now, Gary's always seemed quite moderate in his kind of takes. He's never been ran as a Hamas supporter. You know what I mean? He's very much condemned October 7th, and he's very much been anti-Hamas. But there's kind of this thing of, like, you can be anti-Hamas but also be anti-Netanyahu and the IDF and that sort of thing. You know what I mean? But some people can't see a distinction, and the second you raise any criticism of Netanyahu and what they're doing, you get labelled as anti-Semitic, and that's been thrown around too, Gary. And for a long time, it was completely harmless what he was saying and doing, and most of the stuff he was retweeting or talking about was just having sympathy for people losing their homes or people getting killed, and I mean, that's just human decency. But, of course, it all went south for Gary when he accidentally, or supposedly, as he claims, accidentally retweeted something that included a rat emoji, which, of course, the rat emoji has connotations that link back to the Nazis, and is undeniably an anti-Semitic symbol. Now, did Gary know this? Is the big talking point. He immediately kind of apologised and said that was never his intention and that he made a mistake. I mean, it's a naive thing, Gary. Come on, man. It was silly. Like, and he retweets stuff sometimes and then look back at it and maybe look into it more and think, probably I shouldn't have retweeted that. But then I'm someone with like 10 followers. One of them is my mum. So that doesn't really matter. But for someone of his kind of profile and his kind of elk. To accidentally repost something like that and for no one to tell him, even if it was up there for, I don't know how long it was up there, but someone should have told him. And this is why a lot of these people have PR teams, but sometimes that becomes almost robotic. And because of that, the BBC ushered him out the door. Now, Gary was already planning to retire at the end of the season from Matchday Day, but he was going to stay on and do the 2026 World Cup as like a final destination, final ending. Hopefully England would win it in this weird scenario, but that's probably obviously not going to happen. So did he deserve to be sacked? I mean, I think it was an easy thing for the BBC to do, because he was already pretty much leaving. They already had the 3 presenters who were going to be taking on his role next season. That it was an easy way to get him out the door and to avoid backlash. But I do find there's a bit of a hypocrisy in all of this, that you don't see the usual heads piping up to defend Gary, or the free speech advocates that they call themselves, the people who the same people losing their head on Twitter about Lucy Connolly this week. You'd see them celebrating Gary Lineker's sacking, and you'd see them not supporting them, because it seems that with free speech advocates, they don't really believe in free speech. They say it, but they only believe in the speech that they agree with, or the speech that they think they're being oppressed on, which they're not really getting oppressed on, but there's this belief there. But then when someone says something that they don't agree with, they'll start calling for their head, or laugh at them, or saying they should be locked up for some crime that they've invented in their head. And I do find that. I think that people have said much worse and still been employed by the BBC in the past. People talk about Jeremy Clarkson, of course, who said a few interesting things over the years on his show, but the defence you could make for Clarkson was that all this stuff was in jest, whereas Gary was obviously very serious with this issue. And look, the BBC do not have the strongest track record when it comes to questionable people being employed. Hugh Edwards, anyone? Jimmy Savile? They don't have the best line-up when it comes to questionable people, so maybe they wanted to avoid that again. But I do feel a bit bittersweet by this, because I think it was an easy decision, but I do think there is a hypocrisy that people don't talk about. I think that if you're a free speech advocate, you should be out champion Gary, even if you don't agree with him, which a lot of people don't. But even if they didn't, you should still champion his right to say that stuff. But overall, I really don't like the sentiment that celebrities have to keep their mouth shut and everything, and never say anything. I don't think you should take a celebrity's word as gospel, but I think people should be more bold, because yes, you might get cancelled, and the Gary's cancelled, quote unquote. I don't really think that does anything. It's a weird thing with cancelling, really, because majority of people who were cancelled or have been cancelled, unless they're actually committed crimes and are in jail, have almost made a new career, you know what I mean? Look at someone like Russell Brand. He knew the allegations were coming out, and he knew he was going to be going to jail, so he made as much money he could going down the far right pipeline. And it worked for him, because he made a lot off of it, Or something like J.K. Rowling, people will cry about how she's lost everything, but in anything, she's gained more relevancy since her campaign in 2020. So I'm sure Lineker will go on to probably build some subsection thing going on, and he'll make money. There'll be some conspiracy about he's employed by Hamas or something. There'll be a whole fallout thing, but I'm sure he'll go on to do better things outside of the world of football. If anything, it's probably a win for everyone, and best of luck to the 3 people that are taking over his mantle. But yeah, I just think if you claim to be a free speech advocate, you should not be laughing and celebrating Lineker being sacked. And that's all I have to say on the matter. I think that there's a hypocrisy with this, and I think it's a tad bit harsh due to what other people have done in the past. However, what Gary did was very naive and stupid. If it was an accident, and I mean, it's even more stupid if it was on purpose, because it's like he wanted to be sacked. It was like he was actively trying to get booted out the door, which maybe was the strategy the old time. He didn't want to do the World Cup, but no, I think you wouldn't do that, would you? So that's why it leans more to me it being an accident. But who's to care? Do get in the comments on this one if you do have an opinion, because I know this is a very opinionated topic, and it's going to get interesting, but look, as long as you're not committing hate in the comments, you can say what you want, and I'll champion you, unlike the people who are not champion Gary. So yeah, I will see you soon.